Hello, my name is Christopher Chance, and this will be your interesting Catholic trivia for today. I want to share something interesting about an relatively obscure disciple of Jesus found in the New Testament, and that is Saint Lazarus of Bethany. Now, many of you are wondering, why is he calling this saint obscure? And I call him obscure because really the only thing that's actually recorded of him in the Gospels is in the Gospel account of Saint John near the relative end of Jesus' public ministry, where he actually raises Lazarus 4 days after he had succumbed to an unknown illness. After that, nothing really much is said about him other than the fact that he had invited Jesus to his home about 6 days before the crucifixion, that he was the brother of Saints Martha and Mary, who receive greater attention in the Gospels, because they are part of the women of Jerusalem who witnessed Jesus' resurrected body after discovering the empty tomb, and they also have lessons that we can all learn from, namely the most famous lesson of Jesus having to remind Martha that he is not condemning her being a good host, but that she should take example from Mary in making sure that in all things that she does, that her primary focus is listening to what Jesus had to teach them. And the second encounters the fact that in the dinner party before the crucifixion, St. John notes that it was specifically St. Mary that had anointed Jesus with expensive perfume, which then led to Judas Iscariot's hypocritical objection to the wealth of the church. But what about St. Lazarus? Well, according to consistent ancient traditions, both from the Church Fathers and in the early Middle Ages, the three siblings, much like the rest of the apostles and disciples, were forced to flee from Jerusalem following the martyrdom of Saint Stephen and the resulting persecution led by Saint Paul before Paul met Christ and converted, that came about against the church. After they had left, and after St. Paul had converted and had met with his fellow missionary St. Barnabas, they approached Lazarus and assigned him to be one of the first bishops of the Church of Cyprus, which gives him a connection to St. Barnabas, since Cyprus is both Barnabas's homeland, and he is also considered to be the first bishop of the overall island. But that is not what I want to focus on about St. Lazarus. What I found interesting is that he had a unique characteristic following Jesus raising him from the dead, and that is the legend that he supposedly never smiled. Now, lest we think that this was him showing ingratitude towards our Lord from raising him from the dead, both the biographers and St. Lazarus himself assure us that this is not the case. The sorrow that Lazarus exhibited following him being raised from the dead was actually towards his neighbors, both Christian and non-Christian, and that is the fact that being dead for 4 days, he knows the realities of what happens to the soul after death, and his sorrow resulted from the fact that his neighbors and later on his flock were apathetic towards what happened to their soul after death. They did not care and lived lives accordingly, and this concerned Lazarus both because he had a first-hand experience of what had happened to him, and also as one of the first bishops of the church, being appointed by the apostles themselves, he was charged with giving the teachings of Christ to his neighbors, and at least for me it seems that from his explanation of why he never smiled, he was most concerned with Jesus's teachings that we reflect on here in the season of Advent, chief among them being watch and pray, be prepared, you will never know when the hour of the Son of Man shall come. And this seemed to be the battle standard that Lazarus lifted up against those in the world who sought to deny or ignore this warning of Christ, that our deaths will come at a time we do not expect, and that Christ will come in a very public way at a time we will never be able to predict, and that we have to prepare our souls accordingly. With this in mind, as we prepare ourselves in this penitential season, and I will include myself in this since I don't want to be a hypocrite telling people to do something that I myself will not do, the main way to do this is to go to the sacrament of confession. When was the last time you had actually gone? With this in mind, at least when it concerns myself and making sure my soul is prepared for two events that I will never be able to predict, I will have no problem calling upon Lazarus' intercession in prayer. I'll have no problem saying, Lazarus of Bethany, pray for me. Well, this ends the first episode of Random Catholic Trivia. I hope that this will gain more fruit if you actually want me to continue this, though I will confess my schedule is busy at the moment as I'm currently knee-deep in becoming a teacher through alternative certification, so if y'all do want more of this, I might not be able to do as many in a consistent manner. In any event, as I said in my other videos, I hope you enjoyed this. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to, but I encourage that you do, and I hope that you have a good day.